Very good evening to all of you. I hope you're all doing good. Yes. How many of you have written mains once at least? Okay, you have. You also have. Good. Any specific challenges which you have faced while preparing for this particular section? Because I will be taking up art and culture today. Any particular problem you face, or otherwise also who don't have any experience of writing mains, they must have started answer writing, right? Or they must have started reading about art and culture. Do you think that this section is not doable? Any specific problem? Or do you want everything from my end to be told to you, spoon-fed to you? See, the biggest reflection which you need to have when you start preparing for mains and when you start writing answers for mains are based upon these 4-5 aspects, right? What are they? First of all, syllabus. Why syllabus is important? Because UPSC has given it to you, right? There has something in the form of content which is given by UPSC, which is what you have to take as a direction to start preparing, right? Second aspect is, within the syllabus, is the deconstruction of the syllabus, right? And how do you do that? You do that through previous year papers. You do that through the questions. Why? Because again, you ultimately have to write answers. Okay. Third thing is nature of questions. Why nature of questions and what kind of questions? Have you all started looking at the papers of mains? What kind of questions do you feel is asked in art and culture specifically? Are they direct questions? Not at all? Yes, there are direct questions. Are the questions dynamic in nature as well, having a set of application involved in it? Yes. So when you read the content does not come in the same form, right? Nowadays, as and when we will be seeing the questions, you will understand that after reading the content, you have to also introspect on the kind of relevance they hold in today's context. Second, what learnings do you get? What insights do you get? These are the kind of, again, pointers which you are not getting in the book, because books are not written and meant for UPSC, right? You have to read the standard content, right? So they are not written the way questions are framed. So there is an element in your mains which requires you to introspect, which requires you to understand the relevance of art and culture in today's context, right? And that is how, again, questions are framed. Third aspect of the questions in the last 3-4 years is that questions are directly coming from the newspapers or issues going in current affairs. Let's say if there has been an opening of a temple complex by our Honorable Prime Minister or the President, that dynasty or that temple or the architecture of that dynasty can be asked. Second type of newspaper related questions are those which are coming directly from the article. They don't have a bearing on current affairs as such, but some or the other random article has covered that content. Now, when you talk about these articles which come in the newspaper, which do not have bearing with current affairs, you may or may not be interested in reading, right? You may or may not get the whole content even if the questions do come, right? So one learning which we all have to do is, when we have understood that yes, there are type of questions which are directly coming from the articles or editorials which do not have any bearing with current affairs, those articles also at least some reading must have gone from your end, right? Why this is important? Again, it gives you an insight on what level your preparation should be, right? Next type of questions is your, specifically on the conservation efforts being done by the government of India in any field, or let's say personality-based questions, their contributions in art and culture, right? So these are few aspects in the question which, you know, are asked by UPSC. Let's summarize on the basis of what we have understood, because it has to be settled in your mind, right? So, type of questions in your mains. This is very important, specifically those who have just started their preparation and those even who have written mains. So the first set of question is direct question, which is content driven, fact based, right? Second type of question which I talked about is your dynamic plus applied question. Now here you have to apply the content read in terms of its current relevance plus the insights you get from the past. Right? Third type of question is current affairs based question or newspaper based question. Right? There are two categories in this. Either the question has come from, you know, news, or the question has come from a random, you know, article. So these are the three main type of questions you see overall in UPSC preparation also, and specifically if we talk about the last 3 years of art and culture mains, right? Now coming to the syllabus, the most crucial aspect, because the keywords which are given in the syllabus by UPSC only is indicative in nature, right? If you compare it with other subjects, it's the minutest, right? Very limited. So you have to deconstruct the syllabus according to a pattern or according to the lines in which UPSC has already asked a question, right? So what are the keywords given in your syllabus? Indian heritage and culture. Indian culture will cover the salient aspects of art forms, literature, and architecture from ancient to modern times. So there are roughly about 5 keywords which are given, right? One is your Indian heritage and culture, which includes your ancient, medieval, as well as cultural aspects within that. Your art forms. Art forms can be of 2 types. Visual art, 3 types rather. Visual art, performing art, and literary art as well, right? However, UPSC has given literature, you know, as an individual category, so you have to prepare literature also, right? Now what you have to do is that when you prepare art forms or literature, let's say architecture, you have to go in a time frame manner, right? So from starting your ancient to different phases of cultural ethos or cultural zenith in every dynasty or every phase. Then you go to modern, and accordingly you go to, so from medieval you go to modern, right? So that is how your evolution of cultural understanding will begin, right? Just to give you an example, how we will be doing that? We will be doing that after we have understood the marks, weightage, and number of questions. So the first aspect is it's very erratic. In the last 3 years, if you could see, 2020 you had 4 questions having 50 marks weightage. In 2021 you only got a 10 marker. In 2022 you again got 40 marker. So the kind of hard work it will invoke from you may or may not be reflected in the paper, right, in your mains paper. But that does not mean that you will leave it, because it has already been done from your end in prelims. You have already, given a considerable learning to it, right? So even if it is not asked, it will always give you an, a kind of an insight or a learning which you could also employ in your essay writing or ethics. How? When you understand culture, you understand many things, like how one's living pattern is, how one's dressing style is, how one's society was at that point of time, right? When you say, about essay, there are different approaches to write essay, and one is historical evolution, right? So if you understand how our culture began or our ancient history began, it gives you an insight on how things can be done at every level of your examination, right? So having said that, this is how your trend analysis looks like of this particular subject in the last 3 years. Now you remember the keywords which were given in the syllabus, right? So from every keyword, there has been a question asked in the last 3 years. So when we talk about art forms, you have medieval Indian temple sculptures, right? So sculptures, that too in a specific time frame they have asked, and that is medieval Indian temple sculptures, right? When you talk about Indian culture and heritage, you have different aspects of Indian culture and heritage tracing the roots from dynasty. So let's say कि Gupta period में या Chola period में what was the contribution in Indian heritage and culture. Then, significance of lion and bull in Indian mythology, art and architecture. Again, the lion and bull figures, question which UPSC had asked. They had asked because of, current affairs perspective in it. We will be talking about that also. But that's how, specific elements within your Indian culture and heritage is being asked by UPSC. Then again, as I said, that UPSC has this tendency of giving you a dynasty. So within a dynasty, there is a, contribution aspect which you have to prepare. So let's say when you talk about Guptas, Guptas is considered to be the golden age of art, architecture, literature. It is the golden phase of Indian heritage and culture, right? So similarly, Pala period is considered to be the significant phase in Buddhism. Why? Because as and when, so Buddhism saw the zenith also during the Pala period as well as the decline, right? So that's how you have to understand that every phase or every dynasty has had a contribution in Indian culture and heritage, right? Next type of question was a very dynamic one, which I was talking about, which was there in some article of the newspaper, but you may not get the whole answer out of it, right? Indian philosophy and tradition played a significant role in conceiving and shaping the monuments and their art in India. आप समझ रहे हो ये किस तरीके का question है? That means your observational understanding of when you visit a temple or let's say any monument, or the introspective aspect or curious aspect which has become a mainstay in the UPSC preparation is what now is highlighted in the form of questions also, whether it is culture, whether it's geography, whether it is any subject, right? That means if any monument or any temple structure you see, why it is made in that same way, Does it have to do with the kind of philosophy, that faith to which that temple or monument is dedicated to, right? Is that the contributing factor? That's how, questions are appearing in UPSC, right? Then architecture, there was a question on rock cut architecture, very simple question. Then literature, Bhakti literature pe wo pooch chuke hain. There has been a question on Persian literary sources. I vividly remember that when the first time this question came in 2020 on Persian literary sources or literature, the first impression of the aspirants after coming from their mains papers was that now we have to prepare Persian literature also. Ab wo question hi kyun aaya? Because they had not studied the different aspects of Indian culture and heritage the way the syllabus has been written. So if you read only books thinking कि मेरा culture हो गया है, that will not be the case. You have to read the books according to the keywords given in the syllabus, right? That's how you will be preparing. ठीक है? Now, more than anything else, okay, ठीक है, सब बोलते हैं content करना ही है. That is how things are to be understood also. Yes, content has to be done. Now, even if someone has written good content, in mains, if he or she does not have the presentation skills, his content will not be read, right? Or his content will not be read the way you want you to be read as it is, right? There is a reason for it. How many students clear prelims, or how many students clear, write mains? Approximately 10 to 13,000, right? Let's take a rough figure, 10,000. Okay? How many copies do they have to check, the examiners? English, regional English, Hindi, essay, your 2 optionals, paper 1, paper 2, then your 4 GS paper, roughly around 90,000 copies, 90 to 1 lakh copies. In how many days the result comes? Approximately 45 to 60 days, right? 1 lakh copies. In these many days, you don't know who the examiner is. You don't even know how the emotional quotient of the examiner is while, reading your paper. हो सकता है ना वो अपनी वाइफ से लड़कर आया हो and he's forced to check the copies, right? You don't know how many breaks they get, right? So there is a mindset. There are certain kind of external factors which do have a bearing in your examination. So you, to avoid those external factors, has to make a concerted effort, a dedicated effort, so that your answers are seen by the examiner. That is why in the analysis of other subjects also, even the toppers might have and must have focused upon presentation. ठीक है? So this is a very crucial aspect. अब आप पूछोगे that can we draw diagrams, or can we have a tabular form, can we have a flow chart, can we have a pointer type of style of writings in art and culture and history? The answer is yes. Do not treat it as a an alien subject or a touch me not kind of a subject, right? It is as same as any other subject in terms of presentation. The moment you get any opportunity, you have to grab that, right? Just to give you an example, there was this question. So this is Ishita Kishore's AIR when rank holder copy. So there was a question on, with examples, discuss how the cultural traditions from various regions of India get reflected in regional music. Now what is the question? How the cultural traditions from various regions of India get reflected in regional music, right? So what she did, that to show the regional traditions and regional music, she drew an India map where different forms of music could be depicted. Okay? So this is one aspect in presentation. So it will remain the same. Second aspect is your boxes, or headings. अब अगर आप देख रहे हो, how much time will you take to just read the answer or just this page? Not even 20 seconds. Not even 20 seconds. देखा ये, अच्छा हाँ ठीक है, this is your different regions and regional music. This is a box which is giving you reflection of how this is, you know, depicted in different cultural traditions. So that is what even your simplest of content will be seen by the examiner. And this is what you have to practice. ज़रूरी नहीं होता है that you have to have, you know, 20 points ready for content. You only have 2 pages, maximum 3 pages to write if it is a 15 marker. In 2 pages, how much can you write? Not beyond 10 points from every topic. So let's say if you prepare in Gupta period literature, maximum 6-7 points is what you have to prepare. In architecture, maximum 6-7 points with examples. That is how quick note making should be made for mains, right? Second is, you know, if let's say question come not on any cultural aspect of dynasty, but any body, let's say Archaeological Survey of India, how presentation plays a role or what kind of introduction you should give. Obviously the introduction will be very cliched, the most simplest one. When did it get established? Who was the founder? What is the role of Archaeological Survey of India? Here point-based answer will also do wonders, right? Boxes, flowchart, if the question has 3-4 aspects to be dealt upon. Just to give you an example, I'm reading the question. In the context of protection of monuments, explain the role of Archaeological Survey of India. So first aspect of your answer is role of Archaeological Survey of India. Second is comment on the challenges faced. Second aspect is challenges faced. Third main part of your answer is measures to address these. So there are 3 parts. One is role, challenges, measures. ये दिख रहे हैं ना आपको? कितनी clearly दिख रहे हैं? Right? So again, why I'm showing this to you is just to fit certain ideas in your mind that you don't require too much in mains, what it is required in prelims. You just need to have those keywords, a very basic understanding, and the rest major part is how you present your answer so that it is read by the examiner very quickly, right? So again, if you can see, you know, very nicely again things are written. There is not too much of description, focus on examples, headings, data. So again, someone says, oh, कि culture या history में data नहीं हो सकता. बिल्कुल हो सकता है if the question is on, you know, things like this about tribal art or the contribution of tribal. So if you talk about the contribution of tribal art, you can very well start your answer with the kind of or the, you know, statistics related to tribes in India. That's why, you know, how do you assess the contribution of any community? First of all, you should know, na, that how much strength do they have in India, or how many people of that community do we have in India. That's how impactful their contribution could be, है ना? तो इसी तरीके से again the answer is that or the main idea is that whether it is security, whether it is economy, whether it is geography, whether it is any other subject, you do not have to change your presentation methods. Right? It will remain the same. But what matters is that you know that in which type of question, which presentation style you will, you know, present your answer with. That is what is skill. That is what is practice. Okay? Similarly, this is AIR 2020 rank 3 holder. Again, if you could see, the question is on architecture of Pallava kingdom, right? And it says that the Pallava kingdom has a distinctive style of comprising cave temples, monolithic temples, and structural temples. Elaborate with example. Again, what she had done, very simplistically, she had shown the region. ठीक है? फिर जो keywords थे, one was cave temple का architecture. Second is monolithic temples, monolithic का description. Third was structural temples का description. Because this is what examiner will look into, right? He knows that in a question he has three things to see. Cave temple, monolithic temple and structural temples. वो अगर आपके नहीं दिखेंगे ऐसे, and he is forced to read your answer, probably in a very good content or better content than hers, you could get very less marks, right? So again, these are some of the things which you have to focus. Let's say, mains preparation, that can you make a ready-made introductions, flowchart, descriptions, conclusions? Answer is yes. Different themes you have to pick. Let's say music. आएगा कोई भी question तो किस पे आएगा? Classical music, Hindustani, Carnatic, regional music, right? Prepare a map in showing the different reflections of music. जब भी question आए वो just make that your introduction. Similarly, अगर dance पे आए, let's say classical dances, make this as your introduction, right? So that's how you can, very much tailor cut your introductions, conclusions, even to an extent content on every topic or keyword given in the question. This is the time, specifically for those who will be writing or attempting next year. They can make their notes very quickly like this. 10 points on every topic from each dynasty, at least. Even if you cover this much, you will be doing wonders in mains. Because agar question aata hai of those kinds which is directly from any article which has no relation with current affairs, wo sabke liye difficult hoga. At least your basics would be done, right? This is another copy just to give you an insight that yes, table can also be formed. है ना? देखो, table hai, quickly, as an examiner, you could also check the answer very quickly, right? So there are some things which will always stay in mains. That is your presentation, even having a simple content, right? Similarly, again, boxes, examples, flowchart, even, this copy is just giving you an insight that he or she has only written about examples, not even describing everything. Okay? So it all depends on question. अगर question है citing relevant examples, तो example से भी आपका काम हो सकता है, right? Now coming to the most important aspect, that is how to prepare. The things which I'm talking about, that how do you make notes, how do you prepare your content for this section. One is having a timeline approach. That is the most important thing which you can adopt while making notes. Okay? Second, obviously, when you are having that, you have to refer to the syllabus. This is just an example. जैसे अगर visual arts है, so art and art forms is given in your syllabus, right? So visual art, which is including architecture also, just write what all dimensions do you see in every topic. ठीक है? So performing arts, dances, music, theatre, puppetry, prepare it dynasty wise. जैसे, just to give you an example, if you were to pick this up, right? Let's say dances. Can you trace the evolution of dances in India from ancient to modern times? Starting from Mesolithic caves or Bhimbetka caves, you have dancing themes, community dance, right? Then you go to Indus Valley civilization, you have bronze dancing girl. Leave aside the specific content, the literary sources. Can you visualize how dance has evolved by reading your simple NCRTs? The answer is yes. Right? Then you go to Gupta age, right? Then you go to dances, Dravidian temple architecture. You have references of Bharatnatyam, Kuchipudi in temple walls, right? You also have dances as a theme in Ajanta and Ellora paintings, right? When you talk about medieval age, you have Khajuraho temples. There again you have different, parts of dances. right? So you do know about dances. It's just that you have not ever visualized in a timeline manner. You've only read it in prelims, right? But you have never, mastered the skill of visualizing in the form of answer. That's where the problem lies. ठीक है? तो करना क्या है? You just have to pick the keywords and prepare the different dynasties. जैसे mural art है in paintings. Start from prehistoric to Harappa, to Mauryas, to Guptas, to Dravidian. And when you are doing this, obviously you can't skip the main elements of paintings from Ajanta Ellora when you're preparing your Gupta phase, right? Similarly, you have miniature painting school. So from ancient to medieval, these are the schools. And then you have modern school of painting, right? So even if 4, 4, 5, 5 points are written, your paintings is done, right? Then comes your regional paintings, then comes your GI tag paintings, or then comes your value addition in paintings. And what is that? Value addition in terms of, let's say, any tribal Mahotsav being celebrated, right? Their tribal paintings are displayed. Tribal hearts, Hunar hearts, right? You have display of paintings, GI tag initiatives if someone has given. So recently, last year, there are 2 paintings which have been accorded GI tag status. So this will remain your conclusion, that there have been efforts recently taken by the government in the regard of painting. And these will be the examples which you will quote in your conclusion. ठीक है? आप लोग में से कौन-कौन monthly magazine पढ़ते हैं Vision IAS की? So you do follow some or the other current affairs magazine. You do get initiatives taken by the government in the end, right? Pick those initiatives, pick the schemes aspect and put it in the way forward or conclusion, right? I hope I'm making sense. Okay. Now coming to the credible sources. Do you want another example on how to prepare architecture? Or is it making sense in your mind? Shall I give it to you? Just a very small example because I feel that this is very important for mains. How many of you have started reading culture or have read culture? Huh? You started reading culture. Okay. Let's take up this topic, architecture. Right? From ancient to modern times. What do you see the earliest form of architecture in India? Caves. Very good. That comes under right? Let's say from Mesolithic to Neolithic period. Bhimbetka caves का आप example दोगे from your NCERT Lakudiyar caves, right? What kind of structure do you see in Indus Valley civilization? Someone said great bath, granaries, citadels, lower town, upper town, street system, grid system. यही structures होते थे. Will this be a part of architecture? Yes. Humans have made them, right? Then you go to Mauryan phase. What kind of structures do you see? Again, caves, stupas, viharas, chaityas, pillar edicts, right? These are very simple keywords which almost everyone knows if they have gone through culture once, है ना? फिर आते हैं हम post Mauryas, Kushans, Shakas, right? Schools of art, Buddhist school of art. You see again sculptures. फिर गुप्ता में आते हैं आपके temples. or advent or starting of Nagara style temple architecture, है ना? Right? In South India, similarly, you have Dravida style. यहाँ पर एक और चीज आती है, मेगालिथ्स. Is it not simple to trace the history? Right? Similarly, when you go to medieval age, you see what? Temples will remain of different dynasties, right? What is the new addition? Indo-Persian architecture. Minars, tombs, mosques, right? Yes or no? Charbagh style of gardens, है ना? Taj Mahal, अभी series भी आई है. And then you go to modern India. What do you see? Forts. You see universities, colleges. ऐसा नहीं है university college पाला एज में नहीं थी, नालंदा, विक्रमशिला. So I'm just telling you how you have to connect the dots. So in modern age, what do you see? You see ports, you see universities, you see banks, you see railway lines, postal telegraphs. These are the structures which you see. This is what is needed in architecture from ancient to modern times. इसके अंदर you will connect the dots, you will refine the notes. In different phases, you will write 5-6 points. That is what is temporal approach in mains. ठीक है? ये हो गया ना? Life is pretty much sorted, right? And trust me, only 4-5 points with examples, but very significant examples. ठीक है? Now the sources for it. देखो, every year, not every year, obviously there are toppers, है ना? Every toppers have had a different journey, have had a different style of reading, different approach towards this examination. But one thing is common. And what is that? One is syllabus, sticking to the syllabus. Second is that the sources are very limited, right? Up there is a caveat. What are limited sources? Limited sources could be 4 for some, 1 for some, 2 for some, right? So you have to just see on the basis of how much do you know in that subject, where to put stop, right? Now culture or history is one of those subjects which one book is not giving you the whole information. For that matter, not any subject in UPSC is giving every information is collated in one book. That's not the case, right? So what you have to do is, you will stick to basic standard textbooks which you refer in prelims. And what are they? Simply NCRTs. One website I would recommend specifically for mains is CCRT website. Why? Because it's giving you the keywords and deconstruction of keywords as given in your syllabus. जैसे अगर literature है, so it's giving you, first of all, this is what you have to see. You know, the index type of a thing. Indian literature through the ages. So from ancient Indian literature, it's going to modern day literature. जब आप इनके 2, 3 key points समझते हो in the first reading, you get an idea how our literature has evolved from ancient to modern times. You pick the main themes, you pick the main ideas, and that's how you develop a story. Then comes your specificity. अब question तो ये भी हो सकता है, Indian literature through the ages. Question can be specifically on the development of ancient Indian literature, medieval Indian literature, है ना? So this website is very important in terms of having keywords, having key main ideas as per UPSC syllabus. ठीक है? Then comes your architecture, sculpture, painting. Again, these are those topics which you anyways have to cover going by the keywords given in the syllabus. ठीक है? तो जैसे हम परफॉर्मिंग आर्ट्स की बात करते हैं, फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल डांसेस, म्यूजिक, थिएटर, पपेट, अगर क्वेश्चन ही आ जाए परफॉर्मिंग आर्ट्स, पहले तो आपको ये पता होना चाहिए ना व्हाट आर परफॉर्मिंग आर्ट्स. So some will also not be knowing it completely. Some will only say कि अच्छा dances और music, puppetry भूल जाएंगे, or let's say theatre भूल जाएंगे, right? So there are certain key ideas which you always have to keep in mind, key categories. Then comes this book. How you have to do? So this is your old NCERT RS Shama class 11. Index में you have in every dynasty or phase certain cultural contributions. ठीक है, जस्ट टू गिव यू एन एग्जाम्पल, अगर हम हरप्पन सिविलाइजेशन देख रहे हैं, सो दिस चैप्टर इज गिविंग यू जोग्राफिकल एक्सटेंट, टाउन प्लानिंग, स्ट्रक्चर्स, टेक्नोलॉजी, क्राफ्ट्स, ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, रिलीजियस प्रैक्टिसेस, वेट्स एंड मेजर्स, पॉटरी, फिगर्स. ये क्या है? The society at that point of time, cultural at that point of time. Just pick 2 to 3 examples within it, right? Similarly, Rig Ved, you have tribal polity, social divisions, material life, later Vedic phase. You know, you just have to summarize all these in 5 points at the max. Similarly, if you see let's say age of Buddha में how was the state and varna, question तो ये भी आ सकता है. Question in society can be on these lines, how has the varna or the caste system evolved over the ages. अब आप उसको history में classify करो या society में, it is up to you, right? So that's how you have to integrate things in mains. Book तो यही है, it's how you are making use of it, है ना? Then comes your new NCERT, Class 12, Themes in Indian History, Part 1. Similarly, on the same lines, whatever you get in culture, you have to pick it up. Okay? So just to give you an example, as I said, this question can be anytime asked by UPSC. Even in essay, this is very important, right? You should know how the concept of class, caste, and varnas evolved over the ages. Hai na? Then comes your Fine Arts book, Introduction to Indian Art Part 1. It is wholly and solely on your culture. Okay? Every topic given is giving you an insight on how culture had been over the year, different phases of history. There is a new book called Introduction to Indian Art Part 2. This book is specifically on paintings. If someone has to prepare paintings from, from manuscript to how modern Indian art has been, you refer to this book. Again, different pointers, not more than 3 pages is what you will prepare. Okay? Then there is this book. Now it is up to you whether you have to cover this book or not. Because after your credible or standard sources, your test series may also help you in certain topics. Now it's up to you whether you have to go beyond your standard textbooks. Why this book is important? Because it has these topics which you don't get usually. है ना, जैसे अभी UPSC ने 5-6 years back there was a question on coinage, Gupta coins. है ना, what if the question is on tracing the astronomy and mathematic traditions in India, है ना? So there again you need to have a specific content, right? Then there is a specific chapter in these books, language and literature, again a part of your syllabus keywords. Arts, architecture, sculpture, painting, music and dance, again these are those keywords which are there in your syllabus. And religion, philosophy, Buddhism, Jainism and other schools. Okay? So this is what is required in terms of presentation, in terms of identifying which source to be read for different topics. ठीक है, अब क्या ख्याल है आपका? What is your thought? Is it simplified a bit in your mind? That's how you are going to go about it in this subject, right? Now let's discuss the questions over the years and understand how the pattern has been and how the questions will give you direction on the, the content to be prepared. I think यहाँ का ना AC नहीं चल रहा है. So let's come to the question. There have been 8 questions in the last 3 years, which will not take too much of your mind and thought. But what you have to understand from the questions which we will now be discussing in the last 3 years is how to approach this subject, right? Now, if you ask me personally, I feel keywords are very important in any kind of content you are preparing for UPSC, right? Whether you're doing a chapter, whether you're doing in a topic, whether you're attempting any question. Now let's see this question. It is a 10 marker. So for a 10 marker, how many pages do you fill? Not more than 2. For 2 pages, 2-3 lines dedicated to your introduction, 5-6-7 lines for your body, and 2-3 lines again for your conclusion. Most of you will finish off your answer in either 1.5 or 2 pages, depending upon whatever kind of handwriting you have. Okay? For a 15 marker, it could extend to 2.5, maximum 3 pages. That's why I'm saying that you have to assess the marks weightage for a question while writing or introspecting or thinking about any content. So the question is, how will you explain that medieval Indian temple sculptures represent the social life of those people or in those days? So you have prepared notes, or rather I should say that you have read medieval Indian temple sculptures, and that's about it. है ना? Question क्या आया है? The second type of question, which is analytical one. On the basis of content, you have to think. है ना? Answer तो नहीं है book में, answer तो बस इतना ही है that you know what are medieval Indian sculptures. But the question is, how do you explain? How do you explain how? One is through giving examples, very good. How do you explain how? Another method? By depicting. Through flow chart. है ना? 10 marker है, याद रखना. The most important thing is that when you answering any question of 10 marker, you have to pay emphasis to the keywords. As I said, the keywords are medieval Indian temple sculptures, social life of those days, and this you have to explain through a directive, that is how. Assume that you don't know the answer. Assume क्या, बहुतों को आंसर नहीं पता है ना? Try to attempt this question by knowing only 2 examples of medieval Indian temple sculpture. कोई भी medieval Indian temple उठा लो, महाबलीपुरम, खजुराहो, 1-2 examples तो पता होंगे, right? Just try to frame the introduction. How है ना? Temple structure depict social life. Social life में क्या होता है? It gives us information about society. It gives us information about sculptures में आपको क्या दिख रहा है? Religious faith. और क्या दिख रहा है? Art forms. वही keywords हैं जो syllabus में है. Dances, paintings. Sorry? Okay, civilization. How civilized the society was in terms of dresses, in terms of economy. अगर आप एक flow chart ही ऐसे बना दो, don't you think examiner will understand that this is what you are going to write in the answer? and you just have to fill in with examples. यहाँ पर आता है आपका how strong is your basic preparation through syllabus. As I said, अगर ये कर लिया ना, this will be easy. But अगर यही नहीं पता है, then you will not be able to write too much. Even if you write like this, don't you think in a 10 marker UPSC examiner will be able to check the answer quickly? है ना? So these are the things. How मतलब depict. Depict through flowchart. Depict through. अब इसमें क्या करना है? इसमें examples देने हैं. So despite of you knowing very limited, if your presentation is correct, you will any day secure better marks. और अगर आपका presentation is very plain, you know, tracing the history, 2-3 lines, very ornamental introduction, तो हो सकता है you will not be able to get that much good marks. है ना? The idea is you have to make your answers visible, right? So this particular question, as I said, is the checking up of dynamic aspect, right? तो हमारी introduction हो सकती है ये. So better is that instead of you writing content, you depict in a flowchart the same thing. कि हाँ वो social life बताता है, cultural life बताता है, what had been the economy of those days, right? You fill in the gaps. How socio-cultural life? It gives you information about theatre. It gives you about dancing. It tells you about, you know, different kinds of dramas. It gives you about information about how the religious theme was at that point of time, what was the faith of the people at that point of time. Now here you give examples. Starting from Pallava age, specifically, you know, temples which have been built after 9th century is what you have to highlight, right? Similarly, when you're talking about Khajuraho temples, you have to mention about Chandelas and their how society was or how in that phase people were, right? So there, if you talk about, so those sculptures give you a vivid description of how dances was or how music was, you know, at that point of time, or let's say state of economy. Agriculture was the mainstay during those times also until date, right? So then how your, you know, different amalgamation of different faiths is seen through different temple sculptures, जैसे Buddhism, Jainism, right? Even if there were Hindu temples, there were also in Hindu temples sculptures related to Buddhism and Jainism as well. है ना? Similarly, Chola Empire, your Nataraj Shiva sculpture, what does it depict? It depicts dancing pose. It depicts what? Fearful Shiva, right? Faith towards Shiva. He's considered to be the destroyer. Then Ranganath Swami temple sculpture. So there again you see vivid description of music, parakeet, their entourage, their troops, all displayed on sculpture. है ना? Vijayanagara आएगा medieval में. These are few dynasties which you will not forget. Cholas, Khajuraho, Vijayanagar. यहाँ पर आपको क्या दिखता है? Life-size figures of gods, goddesses. What do you see? You see, you know, carvings from Hindu mythology. What do you else see? Again, you see music and dance. ठीक है? You see scenes from Ramayana or Mahabharata, our great epics. Then you come under that phase where you also have to show the philosophical traditions in medieval India. जैसे mathas, है ना? Mathas or monasteries were set up during that age, है ना? So वो भी आप बता सकते हो, right? So that is how answers will be, right? So first understanding is that whether you understand what constitutes in that phase. Second is the example, and then how you present your answer. ठीक है? Conclusion क्या होगा? In such questions which are content driven plus with examples you are giving an account of how social life was, you can just connect it with the present day times. That till date, these sculptures give us rich understanding of how our past was. That's it. Some conclusions, So do you know how many type of conclusions can be written? Yes or no? No? You don't know anything about answer writing? How can that be? You've written answers, right? कॉलेज में लिखे होंगे, स्कूल में लिखे होंगे. So when we talk about conclusions, just to give you a brief idea, एक होता है summarizing conclusions. ये बहुत simple होता है. That is what you must have all done in schools or colleges. You have just summarized what you have written. ठीक है? In UPSC, I don't think this should be written because it is just going to waste time. Unless and until you don't have any value addition or you are not showing any link with the past or the present, you should avoid just writing and ending your answer with any ornamental conclusion just for the sake of it. ठीक है? Try in history to write conclusions linking past and present. This is the most important way in which you can end, which can again give you that extra point. You know, there are many aspirants who've had written mains, they are stuck in some mark zone. Just to pick that up, you have to link your topics from the past to the present. Third aspect, which is marks fetching in culture or history, is ending your answer with constitution or constitutional provisions, right? Jaise for example, if question is on, let's say, archaeological survey of India or our Indian heritage and past, how it is important. What all constitutional provisions you can quote? हमारी fundamental duty में है, हमारे DPSP में है, right? To preserve, to protect our Indian heritage, our monuments. Next type of conclusion in culture could be initiatives taken by the government in the form of any fair or festival recently celebrated or given, boost to any mahotsav, any scheme, any program at global level. If any dignitary come in India and visitors, they are gifted with some heritage craft, right? That can also be quoted as one of your conclusions, to remind the leaders of different countries that this is what our past, this is what our culture, this is what was our heritage. Okay? So again, these things, when you read in the newspaper, it's, that is how you should pick those examples up and either written in the introduction or conclusion. Hai So that's how your conclusions could be in culture. Then comes your question, very direct question. Discuss the main contributions of Gupta period and Chola period to Indian heritage and culture. What are the two parts to the question? Gupta and Chola. Within Gupta period, what do you have to show? Contributions in Indian heritage and culture. Within Chola period, the same has to be discussed. Now, what do you mean by discuss as a directive? What we are discussing? You will have different dimension, I will have different dimension, we will write all the dimensions. Another way of attempting discuss question could be stakeholder type of discussion, where I'm bringing up the perspective of different stakeholders. वो culture में, history में, it's not that prominently written, but it all depends on the question. Let's say, अगर modern Indian history में there is a question on, what have been the different voices or issues raised in Indian national movement. You can very well write that answer using stakeholder approach. कि nationalists, how they perceive Indian national movement, foreigners, how do they perceive, women as a group, how do they perceive, or what is their contribution, है ना? Similarly, philosophers, similarly scholars, how they have contributed and seen or visualization of Indian national movement. So like this, it all depends on what the question is, what the topic is, and that's how you write different ways in which you can handle the discuss type of directive question, है ना? एक और element है discuss में debate वाला. You see ना in TV channels, news channels, discussions also involve an element of debate. बहुत सारे different important dignitaries come from different fields, those who have had a landmark contribution. What do? They bring out their viewpoints. Then a group is formed. आप क्या believe करते हैं? अच्छा, आप लोग क्या believe करते हैं? Right? They come to two perspectives, for or against, है ना? So this is also an element of discussion as a directive. Again, this is not in history, but stakeholder approach, dimensions is what you will always look into when you're writing means answer with a directive called discuss. Okay? A very simple question. Gupta period. Ab literature, revival of Sanskrit within literature, art and architecture, how has the development of temple architecture been, sculpture, painting, numismatic art. There are all dimensions. The contributions of Gupta in art, Indian heritage and culture. Ab yahan par again, what you have to not miss is, let's say when you're talking about literature, Kalidas, the dramas he wrote, the plays he wrote, right? Similarly, Hari Sen, similarly Vishak Dutt. There are all these kind of plays and theatres and books which also come in your prelims, mind you. तो कुछ तो होगा ना? Why Kalidas plays or why Vishak Dutt's plays or why Hari Sen's writings are asked? Because they have started the art of writing. From there we see literary sources to the excellence where we get the information. Hana? We found books, we found literature. Right? Similarly, if UPSC is asking you on travelers' accounts, why? Because they are again rich source of history. So जो travelers है, जो literature लिखा, they've had a contribution in Indian heritage and culture, right? So there are certain again key pointers which you will not miss, right? अगर आप गुप्ता पढ़ रहे हो, Gupta literature, these are the scholars which you have to write. Revival of Sanskrit as a language or Sanskrit as a medium of instruction was a key point again in Gupta phase, right? Similarly, art and architecture, इसमें तो I need not say anything. Starting of temple architecture in North India was done in Gupta phase. Paintings में Ajanta, they have patronized Ajanta paintings, right? Sculpture, Sultan Ganj. Again, Buddha image is very important one. Image of Buddha at Sarnath, Bhitari monolithic pillar. They are all examples which you will write in sculpture. Paintings, as I said, Ajanta paintings you have to mention. Numismatic art, their coinage history, the kind of coins they inscribed or they minted. Again tells us how rich our Indian heritage and culture was. Because coins as a source of history reveals us what? It not only tells us how our economy was on the basis of what metal coins were minted, it also tells us the faith of the people, the kind of kings we had, the kind of women rulers we had, the kind of interest they had in art and heritage, right? So they are all important things which you have to be mindful about. Similarly, science and technology, again you see scholars in Gupta age like Maharya Bhattavara, Mira, they have had remarkable contributions in coming up with scientific books, right? Metallurgy, again, that can be assessed through coins as well as bronze casting sculptures found during Gupta age. Okay? Similarly, when we come to Chola period, the same dimensions, the content will differ. है ना? But आपकी presentation यहाँ पर matter करेगी. Simply if you'll write like this will not make sense, no? You have to put that in box, or let's say you have to write like this, in capital letters. You have to highlight the example so that the examiner is reading it carefully. Okay? Next question is very dynamic question, having a link with current affairs, which I told you that's how questions are framed. Discuss the significance of lion and bull figures in Indian mythology, art and architecture. देखो, in such type of questions, first of all, you all will have a content shortage. है ना? Because when you see directive, you will tend to break it in different dimensions and different parts, which will be little bit difficult from your end to get the points for, right? So what you have to do is, one way is, lion and bull को इकट्ठा कर दो and divide the answer in mythology, art and architecture. Because see, you will not have separate points for lion, you will not have separate point for bull. This is the smart work which you have to assess and you have to do while giving the test, and that's why test series help you, that whether you will be breaking that thing or not. If you are breaking it, you should have content, otherwise it makes no sense. Second important aspect is, as I told you, it has link with current affairs. That means newspaper reading becomes important to get the themes to prepare for, right? These are one of those questions which will be difficult for all, but will not be so difficult but manageable for those who are taking clues from the newspaper to prepare certain themes. Dekho, aap polity, governance, economy, let's say geography or security, IR. You do read newspapers to prepare certain topics for mains, right? Why not for culture? So when that question came, in the previous year, there had been a controversy regarding royal emblem. Still at Central Vista, we have had a controversy on the lion, right? Similarly, there has been a gift given by our Honorable Prime Minister in the form of Dokra Nandi Bull to Argentina President during Germany visit. As I told you, when any dignitary who visits any country out of India and gifts someone any Indian heritage or craft, that should also be highlighted and made notes of as an example, either in the conclusion or as a direction for a topic like this to be covered. Bull, lion, आप वैसे भी तो Indian temples में गए हो ना? Yes or no? Give me very generic points as to how you perceive bull and lion in Hindu mythology. Very quickly. As a symbol of power. Sorry, come again. Shiv Tandav. Shiva temples you find Nandi, right? What is the symbol of Nandi? How do you perceive Nandi? As a vehicle? Lion as a vehicle of Ma Durga? 2-3 points so you can write, na? They symbolize bravery, they symbolize valor. उस सबके ना वो लिख दो synonyms. Power, bravery, valor. चलो confidence तो नहीं लिखेंगे. Bravery, valor, strength, bull. Consort of Shiva. When Shiva used to travel, he used to carry a lot of people along with him. Bull was one of that. Similarly, how do you perceive lion? अब इसको separately नहीं लिखना. As I told you, you have to keep them as together. Same points for both of them will be valid. Symbolize strength, valor, bravery, consort, vehicle. Just give example. Ma Durga's vehicle or Vahan was lion. Bull always accompanied Shiva. है ना? हो गया ना? At least this much तो will be done. 3 lines ka space. Similarly, how do you see them in, what was the second part? Art and architecture. Mauryas. Stupa architecture mein. Pillar edicts mein. Right? Sarnath pillar. What else? Lion? National emblem, or lion images you see where? In Dravidian architecture. Bull also you see in Dravidian architecture as what? As protectors. Hana? Dwarpals. Basic points again. Right? At least you can write basic points. So after reading current affairs, you don't get the content. But you already know the content, you just have to rework on your process of thought. How you think. Right? But if you've never given it a thought that these questions can also come, or whenever someone is gifted any motive like this, there can be a question. So, just try to read along with the lines and how you can perceive in future the questions can come. Okay? So, significance of bull, significance of lions separately, but I would still try to believe that you cannot have these specific points. This is after interrogation. After you have seen the question, you come up with points. There you probably will not get those points. Okay? So Nandi Dev was a bull, Vahan of Lord Shiva. This is a basic point. If someone has gone through Buddhism, Jainism, clearly they know that bull is also a symbol of first Jain Tirthankar Adinath. Right? That is how in Buddhism, in Jainism, in Hinduism, you will depict the significance of bull and lion, right? Lion, Narsimha avatar of Vishnu, lion shown as Vahan of Durga. In Buddhism, lions are symbolic of or symbolize bodhisattvas. Then in paintings and numismatics, again, coins, you see bull and lion, right? Buddhism mein these points, Hinduism mein these points, in Jain and even in Sikhism, Singh represents lion. So this happens when you fine-tune your observations. I can empathize that such things, minute things, you will not get in the examination hall. But at least now you can keep your eyes and ears open. What is the purpose of we conducting this? Just to give you an indication and direction that this is how you can also think. Hana? 4-5 to I know that you all will be having. But this is the fine-tuning of it. Right? Then specifically significance of bull in art and architecture. You have in Barabar caves, you have Bhimbetka mein hunting scenes. Hana? You have in seals and ceilings of Indus Valley, bull, rhinoceros, tiger. Hana? Wo yaad hai, that's there in the NCRT. Right? Then you have bull figures on coins. In punchmark coins you have symbol of bull. You have in emblems of Indian history of different dynasties as bull and lion as symbols, like Rashtrakutas, Pallavas, Mauryas as symbol of bull. Now this is basic. This is your sheer NCRT and basic sources reading. This is the thinking process which you have to develop and cultivate. And how do you do that? Through temporal approach. कि आपको पता होना चाहिए how things have developed, right? Similarly, in art and architecture, you go deeper. जैसे modern period में pillars में रामपुरवा pillar का दोगे where bull is considered as a masterpiece, right? Again, lions indicate power of universal emperor during modern phase. Bull represents power and fertility. In Stone Age, again, paintings refer the conflict or the hunting scenes between man and animals, right? So that's about it. Gupta period, maybe you have Lepakshi temple mein monolithic bull. Hai? So these are those just examples which you have to fill in by reading your NCRTs. Aaya samajh mein? Okay. Then comes your another question. This is an important learning question on how to read question. Why? Now question is very simple. Pala period is the most significant phase in the history of Buddhism in India. Question क्या है? Pala period is the most significant phase in the history of Buddhism in India. The directive they have used is enumerate. Enumerate means by giving examples. Question तो ये भी हो सकता ना. Question indirect question क्या है? Why do you think Pala period is the most significant phase? That's what the answer is. Are you understanding what I'm saying? Question is Pala period is the significant phase in the history of Buddhism of India. But what does the examiner wants to check? That why do you call Pala phase as a significant phase in the history of Buddhism? So on how many levels do you see Pala and Buddhism in different aspects? Are you understanding what I'm trying to say? One type of answer writing which is usual in such type of questions, which you don't figure it out, is essay type of writing. One paragraph, second paragraph, third paragraph. But in the hindsight, indirectly, UPSC examiner wants to check on how many levels do you see contribution of Pala with Buddhism. Literature, paintings, art and architecture. यही पूछ रहे हैं. Or let's say if you go deeper, the grants or the monasteries set up by Palas to propagate the spread of Buddhism, the travel links they carried, the embassies they sent to different parts to again propagate the message of Buddhism. यही तो है answer. Yes. तो question तो यही है. Why Pala phase is a significant phase? How they actually, gave a boost to the rise of Buddhism, or let's say, gave a boost to the spread of Buddhism in not only India but outside India. है ना? Second element in this particular question is, did you understand that very simple looking questions can be like this, where you can fetch marks more easily by cutting down at different levels despite of they asking it. Examples तो अभी भी लिखने हैं, but वो discuss वाला element in terms of dimensions आएगा इस question में, right? Next thing is, इसकी introduction क्या होगी? Introduction could be very basic one where you just write the time frame of Pala kingdom, right? कि 8 to 11 century या 9 to 13 century, जो भी आपको लिखना, मतलब जो है, right? जो भी आपको लिखना नहीं, जो है. Second thing is that this is ornamental introduction. Do you understand what is ornament? सजावट के लिए. But it will not contribute to the question asked. I hope you're getting what I'm saying. So one type of introduction is सजावट के लिए, that is ornamental, where you give the description of what was the time frame of the dynasty. But again, to fetch marks, to make introduction relevant to the demand of the question is why Pala phase is significant in the history of Buddhism. Even if you write like this, the line that, the rise of Palas and decline of Palas saw the decline and rise of Buddhism also in India. With the decline of Palas, Buddhism also declined. That is how the significance of Palas with Buddhism as a faith. How? Again, मैंने एक standard source बोला था आपको. What was that? CCRT website. जब आप पढ़ते हो CCRT website को, you have Pala school, right? उसमें एक line लिखी है that Pala period witnessed the last great phase of Buddhism. ठीक है? इसका मतलब क्या है? After the Palas, Buddhism also declined in India. है ना? Yes or no? इससे आपको क्या समझ में आ रहा है? That it's not as if questions cannot be made from this book or this website. It's just that the moment you read lines, One aspect again is in mains, I feel that most of the aspirants lack because of the way they read prelims is that they don't appreciate the content. Prelims में क्या होता है? You just understanding and memorizing the fact. You try to get the grip very loose, or you forget that one has to appreciate the content and line given. अब ऐसा तो होगा नहीं कि मेंस में आपको ये अचानक से enlightenment मिलेगा and you'll start doing like that. No. I feel the moment one is preparing for UPSC, one should have an appreciative quality in whatever they read. I mean to say that they should appreciate in terms of how relevant it's writing or saying or giving information, how critically you are able to understand that statement. Because अगर आप ये loosely पढ़ोगे, जो आप पढ़ते हो in the library, I know many people like doom, highlighting. They don't even make sense of what they are reading. They're just highlighting. Stop that. Understand the meaning of each and every line. Because that will give you the message that, okay, question है यहाँ पर. That means you have to either ask a question by yourself, that ये ऐसा लिखा ही क्यों है? What is that? I don't know. Why this is considered to be the last phase? Are you understanding what I'm trying to say? Okay. So, again, content or the sources which I have told you is giving you the content, but it's how you have to reorient also the way you are studying for UPSC. ठीक है? तो you give the rule, you write that line that with the Palas, Buddhism also saw the decline. That's why it is known as the most significant phase. ये भी एक answer का एक dimension है ना? Why it is significant? Because with the decline of Buddhism, with the decline of Palas, Buddhism also declined. Then, how Pala Empire boosted the growth of Buddhism. I gave you pointers. First, trade, architecture, coins, literature. एक बहुत important manuscript है on palm leaf, which I don't know how many of you remember. It is a Buddhist text also. Asta Sahasrika Pragyan Paramita. 8,000 lines on Buddhism is what was crafted by the Pala rulers. That's how relevant Buddhism was for them as a faith. Hana? So this all is what you have to write. The monasteries, the Nalanda, Udantpuri, the patronage given by Pala rulers to them, again emphasizes the fact that how Buddhist school of learning or different kinds of Buddhism, Buddhist sect or faith could be understood. Okay? Then comes again a very different question, which is from a newspaper article, nothing to do with current affairs, a random article. Why I'm saying so? Because the question came in 2020 और वो article आया था 2019 में in Hindu Business Line. Now I'm not professing or anything that you should read Hindu Business Line. I'm just giving you what linkage we could draw from the kind of questions and the articles come. But otherwise also, if you don't know that this question might have been inspired from that article, we again don't know, na? Let's read the question. The question is, Indian philosophy and tradition played a significant role in conceiving and shaping the monuments and their art in India. Again, highlight the keywords so that at least you can break the answer. One is Indian philosophy and tradition played a significant role in conceiving and shaping the monuments and their art. That means you have very less content if you break it part by part. Right? Art and monuments will be treated as one. because you don't have points for monuments alag se and art alag se, right? What do you understand by this question? Can anyone explain me very simply, in very simple words, कि अगर temple ऐसा है, तो why is it like that? Why the temple is not like this? Why there are shikhars? Why there is pradakshina path? Why sacrificial altars are in square shape? Why? Does it have to do anything with our Indian philosophy and tradition? Yes. That's what the question is. अब इसके लिए content मिलना is very difficult. Difficult. I can again empathize with you. है ना? But एक चीज़ मुझे ये बताओ. What do you see common in temples and let's say mosques, let's say Buddhist monasteries? What do you see common? Any structure from your observation which you could see or visualize? Yes. One, you have to tell me what you see in physical form. Yeah. Okay, so one aspect is deity worship. That's common in all? That means you are saying that faith or worship aspect. Okay. What else? Pyramid shape. Can you, I'm just giving you a clue. In terms of structure, yes. The top. If you could visualize in every structure, whether it's a mosque or a temple or a monastery, there's always a chhatri or a finial. Do you understand a finial? A top having some raised structure. Yeah. And so what it could represent? That something is common in all the structures, that we are trying to build a connection with the universe. God or faith or worship or any deity, whether in structure form, whether it is in a chadar form, they are all trying to build a connection with the top. That is why whether you see a gurdwara, whether you see a mosque, whether you see any tomb, whether you see any temple, there is always a top or a finial, which is trying to build a connection with that universe. Yahi question hai. But this is only one point. Then comes the finer details. Tab aate hain in every structure, right? Either it is square, where the chief deity is kept, or is it rectangular, or it is circular. The philosophy behind it, right? Third aspect. You must have always noticed, in every place of worship we go, of any faith or religion, we offer fresh flowers. Why? Because we believe that soul is there. We believe that the deity or anyone we are paying homage to is still alive. His remains are alive. We build a connection with the soul of that deity. Yes? Yes or no? Saaf karenge. Cleanliness will be there. है ना? Sorry? Yes, we don't wear footwear also, right? We have maintained that element of cleanliness. Why? Because we believe that the soul is pure. है ना? Now these are very generic points. These are generic points which does not require any fine theoretical knowledge, is it? वो आऊंगी मैं उसमें, वास्तु शास्त्र पे आऊंगी, because that is where the finer details will lie. But I am asking you a question. The points which we just discussed are stemming out of the interest and observation about different things, or is it only based on content? Your curiosity, your learning, your appreciation of the content which you read for UPSC. So, अब जब आप पढ़ोगे about the structure of stupa, let's say, or a temple structure, you will not read it in a very generic way. As in, अच्छा ठीक है, शिखर्स होते हैं, तोरन्स होते हैं, stairs होती है, and this is that. No. Try to build the connection, because questions can be anything. Lot of emphasis is given on temple construction. Hana? Lot of emphasis is given on revisiting the monuments, their construction for tourism or preserving our heritage. है ना? तो ऐसा तो है नहीं उसको modern day का बना देंगे. We will always look into, abide by the principles of Indian philosophy and tradition. Why Panchayatan style? Why Shikhar? Why under the Shikhar, the tallest Shikhar, the Garbhagriha is located? So this is a part of our Indian philosophy and tradition. Right? Now coming to random articles. चाहे आप हिंदू उठाओ, whether you read Indian Express, whether you just glimpse through Times of India, whatever. If you get any article on Indian art and culture, let's say, try to line your thoughts or align your thoughts in the lines which we are discussing. Right? Don't leave it there. Try to link it with some basic content. ठीक है? Main points, which are content driven, which are theoretical. Probably, देखो, let's say if you would have been writing an answer for this particular question, even if you could highlight the generic points which we would have discussed, someone would have left the question altogether. है ना? So despite of you attempting it, and probably the examiner would have seen the content, he would have still given you out of 10, let's say 3.5 and 4, which is a huge headway in comparison to you getting a 0 in that question. है ना? अब आते हैं हम आगे. So as I told you, that there are certain designs which our Indian monuments or temples adopt, that is square or Vedi shape, or a sacrificial altars which are always square, right? Then Vastu Shastra always emphasize on building the connection. So it is structured in such a way that the Garbhagriha will always be located under that finial or the top, just to build the connection of people worshipping there, coming there, and that spirit of the God from the universe, to just simplify what is being written. Third thing is this oneness with the universe, Panchayatan style. Why? Because it maintains that the entrance should only be one, and then one should, rotate or take that Pradikshana path. You must have also noticed that if you visit any monastery and all, if you visit any Gurdwara or any monument of worship, there is always a circle which you take around the main deity. Why? Sorry? Cycle of birth? Cycle of birth and rebirth, one, very good. Then it also signifies the mantra jap. You must have seen your parents also, while taking Pradikshana path, they chant certain mantras. You must have seen in the monasteries there are certain, drum-like structures where mantras are written and then you touch it like this and go, So that's how things again are to be seen in that structure. Then the kind of purity, cleanliness, and physical liveliness you have to attach with the deities or the structures. That's why natural flowers are offered, or that's why tilak or vermilion are offered. That's why, daily bathing is to be done with different, things, right? Next thing is, in Buddhism, the stamp or the Indian symbol is considered to be lion, or any pillar edict or any structure in Buddhism or in the times of Buddha has certain symbols. So in stamp you have teachings of Buddha. Elephant symbolizes the revelation of Buddha in his body, because when you, I don't know how many of you have read NCRT, Queen Maya's dream is associated with the birth of Buddha. So she visualizes elephant. That's how you see certain symbols on the structures of Indian temples or monuments, right? Why bull? Why lion? Why elephant? Every animal represents certain kind of symbol or story. Okay? Lotus symbolizes perfection. Stupas, again, when you see, you have a structure in the form of a lotus, right? Lotus is very much depicted on stupas, etc. Again, this represents blossoming or fertility, right? So that's about it. That's what you will write. Now, next question is, this is second last question. Very simple question. Rock cut architecture represents one of the most important sources of our knowledge of early Indian art and history. Discuss. What are the sources of history? पहले तो ये पता होना चाहिए. How previous year papers are to be read and understood? One source of history is rock cut architecture. Second sources of history? Very good. Literary sources, architecture. Someone said sculpture. Anything else? Sorry? Travelogues or traveler's account. Coins, very nice. Have you prepared them as a source of history? Paintings, economy and trade. Did you prepare them as a source of history? No. Question आ जाएगा किसी भी aspect पे. Just replace this word. The coinage represents one of the most important sources of our knowledge of early Indian art and history. The paintings represents one of the most important sources of our knowledge of Indian art and history. Travelers accounts पे तो आया ही हुआ है, Chinese and Arab travelers. Why did they ask Chinese and Arab traveler? Again, that year, aspirants were amazed. अब हमें ये भी पढ़ना पड़ेगा. When they question and when they say like this, no, अब हमें ये भी पढ़ना पड़ेगा. I seriously feel that they have never gone through previous year papers. This is the first topic which you read in NCRT, source of history. Chapter है ये. So how can you miss that? Right? So that's why previous year papers indicate you to in which direction you should prepare. And it's not only about history, it's about every subject. Decode, deconstruct, ये word सुनते हो ना आप toppers talk में, the faculties mention. This is what is deconstructing and decoding and going behind the lines. आगे चले जा रहे हो, पीछे जा रहे हो, left, right, whatever it takes to clear this exam, you all have to do that, right? Now coming to the structure of the answer. Now because the question is very easy, What will be the introduction? One way of introducing the answer is what is rock cut architecture. अगर आप ये बता दो, rock cut architecture is defined in terms of caves, temples, chaityas, viharas, stupas, etc. One is this way, and the other one is rock cut architecture what do you prefer? Examiner को क्या appealing लगेगा in terms of giving you marks, or probably it would aid him to read the answer quickly. You writing it or you depicting it? Second one. उसके बाद अगर आप example भी लिख दोगे ना एक एक, तो उसने सिर्फ dimensions पढ़नी है. How important source of our knowledge of Indian art and history? It gives an account of society. Example. Economy. Example. He will be checking your answer in the quickest possible time, and he will give you 6, 7 marks, 8 marks also out of 10. And the moment you will force him to read like this, he may cut your marks. और इसमें मेहनत भी ज़्यादा नहीं लग रही. Right? So try to see, again this is now imposed and inculcated that introduction has to be written. Why? Who told you? Is there any set of rules given by UPSC that you have to introduce while writing, you cannot draw? There are many toppers who say they have drawn diagrams and flowcharts in essay. Right? So it's your mode of expression, your ease with the language of you're using or the expression, and how much time you're cutting for the examiner. Okay. So sources of our Indian knowledge, of our knowledge of Indian art and history, religious values. It gives us account of religious values and faith we had in the form of deity worship or any god worship. Right? जैसे 12 caves, Ajivika sect, हमें पता चलता था at that point of time there were sects, Buddhism, Jainism, Ajivikas living at that point of time. Right? We had caves and chaityas dedicated to Buddhist monks. That means there were grants given in the form of temples, chaityas, viharas. Right? We have in rock-cut temples, the most important one, Kailash temple, where we again get the themes of bravery and valor and how Shiva was perceived at that point of time as a protector. Right? Economic activities, always usually the caves and the chaityas and the temples were also built along the trade routes. Right? They were also resting places for the travelers sometimes, specifically the chaityas and stupas, specifically the viharas, not chaityas. Chaityas are places of worship. Viharas were the dwelling places for the monks. Right? Political patronage, that's how we get the political history. So through rock-cut temples and the writings or the inscriptions, we get what? The history of the dynasty. Mode of communication, so there were rock-cut structures like pillar edicts, which were used to spread the message. For example, Ashoka, right, his pillar edicts. Depiction of art forms through paintings, music, themes used on the rock-cut structures, again, tells us about how the society and economy was, right? But that's about it. Either you develop through temporal approach, कि पहले आप Indus Valley कर रहे हो, caves, lithic period, then you are going to modern period, then you are going to Gupta period. It's up to you, right? I would suggest you to have a very open-ended approach in terms of first bringing up the dimensions or the kind of histories or understanding we get, social, economic, political, rather than having this approach. But there can be two approaches to write the answer. One is evolutionary and the other one is very straightforward, dimensional, right? Then comes this question on literature. Again, you have to understand the language of the question. Persian literary sources of medieval India reflect the spirit of the age. Comment. What do you mean by comment as a directive? Comment is your view or your opinion. है ना? That means the question is asking you, do you think that Persian literary sources of medieval India reflect the spirit of the age? What do you mean by spirit of the age? Spirit का मतलब क्या है? आत्मा. Right? मतलब everything what you are, who you are or who you were or what you were could be understood through literary sources, that too Persian literary sources at that point of time. Is it or is it not? The answer will always be more of a yes. But you will not write yes, it was the spirit of the age. You will just reflect or introduce your answer that how can you say that Persian literary sources of medieval India reflect the spirit of the age. Again, I would suggest to have स्पिरिट कैसे बता रहा है. Autobiographies were written in Persian. Biographies were written in Persian. और क्या लिखा होता था? Very good. Translations were done of certain text in Persian to understand and think in those times. Someone said traveler's account. Very good. Again, this will give a picture to the examiner कि आपको तो आंसर आता है. Yes or no? So you writing an introduction or you writing like this or depicting like this will make a huge difference in your answer. अब इसमें क्या करना है? 1 minute. 2, 2, 3, 3 examples. This will be based on your mehnat and hard work. On each and every topic you should have content. कोई बड़ी बात थोड़ी है. वो ये पूछ ले rise of Assamese literature, Punjabi literature, Rajasthani literature. Will you stop the examiner to do that? No. They've asked a question on Bhakti literature also. They can also ask on the different regional literature specifically also. Who will stop them? Hindi literature. Every regional literature or every literature of this kind at that point of time has had an impact, right? And we get to know about that spirit of the age of those times through those accounts, right? So that's how you should attempt such questions. You were saying something? Which accounts? Revenue accounts, yes. अब वो आप इधर भी इंक्लूड कर सकते हो, बायोग्राफीज और ऑटोबायोग्राफीज में भी यूज कर सकते हो. See, if any text is simply a text on revenue account or economic account, it's fine. Otherwise, I feel those revenue accounts, etc., they must be included or written under traveler's account or translations, whatever, matlab, whoever has written about them. But yes, you do get information about how revenue or taxation powers was or were at that point of time. ठीक है? तो ये है कंटेंट. सो पर्शियन लिटरेचर in India started or came with Humayun and then Babur. So when he was in exile, Humayun was in exile in Iran, he brought many Persian scholars from Iran to India. And Babur again promoted the growth of Persian. And do you know that before English or Hindi, what was the court language? Persian. भाई हमें जो रूल कर रहे थे वो पर्शियन में लिखते थे. These Persian accounts were translated into English, Hindi. So that's how important the contribution or understanding of India in Persian language was. Question ऐसे ही नहीं आ गया. There is a reason behind that. That Persian was the court language for a very long time in India, till the time we adopted the translations of Persian accounts into English and Hindi. Right? So there is a history behind it. So as I told you, Humayun and Babur were the one who promoted and came through them the accounts being written in Persian. ठीक है? They brought along them many Persian writers and scholars. जैसे for example आप दोगे Khalim, Ghani Kashmiri, Urfi Naziri. Now again I can empathize with you that you may not be knowing too much of content till the time you have prepared it regarding it, but you have to prepare. फिर जैसे मैंने बोला बाबरनामा, अकबरनामा, तुजुकी जहांगीरी, these autobiographies and biographies all were written about in Persian, right? Then Barney's account, traveler's account, historical works tells us about your revenue accounts, your state of agriculture at that point of time, right? Accounts of travelers tells us about how trade was, how society was, how the ruler's rule was at that point of time, right? So this is all examples in different dimensions is what you would write, right? This is the next question on literature. इसका आंसर तो आप ही दोगे मुझे. Evaluate the nature of bhakti literature and its contribution to Indian culture. So there are two parts to this question. Nature of bhakti literature and contribution of bhakti literature to Indian culture, right? There are aspirants who would club it and write. There will be people who will be making its two-part. You are all examiners. How many of you would prefer seeing an answer in clubbed form or segregated form? Separated form? Do you feel nature and contribution are same, or do you feel from nature we understand the contribution? From nature we understand the contribution, है ना? Nature क्या है भक्ति literature का? Now there is also a term used by the toppers, keyword approach. कि how they used to make notes, keywords लिख लेते थे, and that's how they would be memorizing the whole topic. What is this keyword approach? मैं सिर्फ keywords लिख रही हूँ. You tell me in which all categories will you place them, right? चलो इतने ही लिखो अभी. Now you tell me, aren't these keywords familiar with respect to bhakti literature or bhakti movement? Any other keyword you want to add to it? Poems, social message. These are the keywords. You can add more. You can add names of Bhakti saints now. You can add their specific contribution. Are you understanding how revision is to be done or notes are to be made? Once you have understood, you start writing keywords for every topic like this, so that you just have to rejot them or combine them according to the question asked. Keywords तो नहीं बदलेंगे, ना ही बदलेंगे key ideas. Neither the content will change. You have to prepare keywords for UPSC mains. You have to prepare keywords for your summarization of syllabus. It takes a lot of time and mental energy. You are exhausted when you write mains. Who all have written main? 2 people? है ना? थक जाता है ना mind. You are even clueless as to what you will revise. You just want to revise. But what if you have notes so aligned with your syllabus, and you are able to give it a very quick revision like this in the form of keywords, you get a confidence. Okay, I've revised once, I've revised twice, I've revised thrice. Hana? So this is what is keyword approach. This is just a teaser and a trailer I have given it to you. Hana? Picture abhi bahut hai. This is not the whole movie. This is just a teaser to the hard work you do, right? Okay. This is the framework within which this topic can be done. Ab question aa jaye of different ideologies in Bhakti movement, तो वो आप कैसे reflect करोगे? You reflect it through the worship of different forms of God, the values they preach, the kind of basic features they had, the philosophical contributions of different Bhakti acharyas, right? Regional influence, growth of regional literature, the reach they had in different regions, है ना? तो भक्ति मूवमेंट नॉर्थ इंडिया में स्टार्ट हुआ था या साउथ इंडिया में, ये पता होना चाहिए. स्टार्टेड फ्रॉम साउथ इंडिया, देन इट वेंट टू नॉर्थ इंडिया. पहले भक्ति सेंट्स आए, थ्रू देयर पोएट्री, डिफरेंट पोएटिक कॉम्पोजिशंस, दे स्प्रेड द सोशल मैसेज ऑफ हार्मनी एंड पीस, egalitarianism और equality, everyone is equal. These will be the keywords which will just come out of your mouth very smoothly, without even blinking an eye. ठीक है, without even fumbling anything. That is how a command on subject or topics should be when you are preparing for mains. ठीक है. फिर आता है आपका growth of regional literature in different regional languages. How the teachings of different Bhakti saints spurted in the growth of regional language or regional literature. ठीक है. So this is the nature of Bhakti literature, that is developing the pan-Indian consciousness. Why pan-Indian consciousness? Why unity? Why love? Why compassion? Why equality? Because it binds the people together with one idea that everyone is equal. God is one. Hana? The emotional connection it imposes or reinstate, right? Then you can bring out the different dimensions in, again, Bhakti nature of worship. What is the nature of worship in Bhakti? Devotional songs, emotional Bhakti, poetry, right? Contributions of Bhakti saints in literature. तो तमिलनाडु में जाओगे तो Pampa's great court epics were composed in Kannada. Then devotional literature in Kannada, the Vachans of Basavan, right? Then Marathi became successor of Kannada. That is how the evolution of regional literature happened, through the Bhakti literature. ठीक है. Then in different regions, how different Bhakti saints helped in the development of regional literature. Again, the content can be taken out from your CCRT website. Exceptionally good content you will find it for mains. You've never read through that angle, but now when you will be reading after the analysis, things will not be that boring. Okay? You just have to pick out the main crux, right? Women poets of Bhakti, एक another dimension है which can be asked by UPSC any day. So this is also important. So what was the main contribution of women poets of Bhakti? They mainly wrote about or concentrated on the emotional appeal. So their writings tell us about the conditions prevailing, position of women in home and society. They wrote very small poems because आप समझ सकते हो, they used to get very little time. Metaphysical depth, spirit of dedication, right? These are again the keywords, the ones which I am highlighting, you will pick up from the content, whether it's NCRT, whether it is website, whether it is any guidebook. ठीक है? So this was all for today in terms of the questions asked by UPSC. Now what are the learnings? The number one learning is stay with the basic books. Try to read, revisit and understand in different dimensions as far as possible according to the questions which have already been asked by UPSC and beyond that also. There are different layers in every topic. There are different dimensions in every topic. Just open up and write 4, 4, 5, 5 examples or highlight them. Practicing the test series is important. Reason being, you've already read the basic books for your prelims, right? So how do you apply what you have read? How you reorient the way you think till the time you don't give different answers to different type of questions. UPSC should not be the first attempt of you writing the paper. The practice should have been done beforehand because it's strictly time based, it's very competitive, right? I am not even telling you half the thing which I could tell you how competitive it is. Ek topper tha, I am forgetting the name, 5, 6 years back. He got very bad marks in one of his attempt in essay, in 2-digit, right? What he did for his next attempt? He wrote 150 essays. It is so brutal. And he got a rank in first 10. So don't underestimate the competition. If someone has got the experience of writing mains, he knows what his strengths and weaknesses is. So he's just working on that. That is not to say that first attempters could not clear or cannot clear. There are examples to it also. But I'm just telling you the other side, that people are very competitive, right? Don't forget the time factor which I told you is very important, because even if you knowing the answers of most of the questions are not able to complete the paper on time, you are losing out on again very good chunk of marks which can be a limiting factor in your rank or your selection. Art and culture is usually considered, is considered touch me not subject. कि ठीक है, अगर छुओगे भी तो भी कोई फायदा नहीं होगा, things like that. So it's not really like that. Treat it as any other subject. Don't too much, don't dwell into thinking of this kind that, एक ही question भी तो आया था किसी paper में. See, I feel if you've given it considerable time in your prelims on history, you should continue it forward in some other layer, the way I have discussed it with you. And it will reintegrate and integrate your studies with prelims and mains point of view very finely in your next attempt also. Okay, if things are not on your side. So don't always think about the subject in that manner. Secondly, you have to stick to the previous year papers, syllabus for the keywords. Link your static with your current affairs now, because even you have seen prelims paper, It has become very dynamic. Mains paper has always been dynamic, which checks your mental alertness. Do you know what is the requirement of, there are certain traits which they have mentioned in the personality test. One of the trait is mental alertness. Why is that? How alert you are in any challenging situation, whether it's prelims, mains or interview. Because if you become a district collector, challenges will not be one but many. They are just preparing you for that. कि कोई भी situation हो सकती है, paper भी कैसा भी आ सकता है, how strong you are, how much guarded you are with your basics, right? So stay with basics, link with current affairs, study with very open mind, very simplistic understanding. Don't complicate it. Answers भी जो toppers के हैं, they're very simple, very easy to read. Any examiner, even a 10th class student can read and understand. That's how the simplistic way of writing you should practice. Okay? So that's about it. All the best. Make most of the time which you have. Even if your attempt is next year, it's fine. Just prepare your syllabus thoroughly, right? If you have any questions, you can ask me. Otherwise, we'll sign it off. Okay, all the best.